3. Go to the gate. Perfect. Just like that.
I'll just go ahead.
Yep. Graphics 2 is going to be up for the first. Okay. Go right now. Go to camera 3. Go. Yep. Go to the gate. Perfect. Just like that. No music. I'm going to have to cues. Wait for it.
On radio in the Canal Zone.
All right, guys, mic check.
Okay,
Ricky, mic.
Yep, I am ready.
Willie, mic check.
Yep, let's go.
10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
and we're live.
Okay, and go for it, guys.
Go. It is 8 p.m. Eastern time. Actually, we're kind of starting on time here, which is not bad. It is 5 p.m. Pacific time, and it is 8 p.m. Canal Zone time. It is Friday night, January 9th of 2026. I was ready to go back to 1964. Not yet. We're going to get there here in just a moment. But anyway, Ricky, happy Friday, man.
Happy Friday, everybody. Yes, it is January 9th. It is a big day for both Panama and the Canal Zone, and we're going to have a great show to talk about that tonight. But like always, let's start with a nice warm welcome. Thank you guys all for joining us every Friday. Welcome to our happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. It's a podcast, guys, weekly by Willie Benninghoff and myself, Ricky Royal, both of us born and raised in the Canal Zone, are bringing you what we can about the latest of the Panama Canal. The latest history, the latest news. We'd like to talk about its founders, its people, a.k.a. known as the Zonians. So please join us tonight, January 9th, 2026, and enjoy our show, and cheers to everybody.
Yes, salute to everybody. Happy Friday. Happy New Year's. I guess we can throw that out there, right? Although January 6th is technically the end of the Christmas season for...
That's King's Day, yeah.
Right, the Three Kings Day and all that, but we can still throw up any side.
Today we have Flags Day. Flag Riot Day.
Flag Riot Day, indeed.
Yeah, Willie, that's the Canal Zone term to it. The Flag Riot Day. And in Panama is the Dia de los Mártires.
Mártires, yes.
The Day of the Martyrs.
Yep.
All right, well.
I mean, they changed 4th of July Avenue to Avenida de los Mártires, so, and that's, obviously very symbolic because of where it took place, but also, if you think about it, that was a big thoroughfare that was the border between the United States and Panama, so it made sense to put that name there.
And it was the main road that took you to the bridge. Correct. So, you're right. So that was one of the most important roads.
There was a lot of symbolism
the city
that Panama used with the United States, and especially once they the treaties were kicked in and everything. I mean, they didn't waste any time putting a flag up on top of Ancon Hill, so they made sure that everybody in the zone, at least on the Pacific side, saw that flag planted right over, basically overlooking, the address.
Oh, the one up in
Ancon, the big one.
There's a plaque up there with my uncle's name right on it. So yeah.
Oh, right on. Yeah, but I mean, and again, so that's very much symbolism of the sovereignty of Panama now at that point. So, but a lot of people will argue that the pivotal point in the Panama-U.S. relationship that ended up ultimately with the canal going back to the United States or to Panama was in fact these 1964.
And what was that Zonians Day that got it all started?
Jim Jenkins.
Jim Jenkins, God, poor guy. I don't know if you guys.
And I mean, he's quoted saying, he goes, "I'm the one that got this started."
Funny thing, Willie, is I did see his name on a lot of Panamanian social media news, right? And
sure.
So a lot of people were making fun of him and the way he looks because he kind of has that Beavis and Butthead look. And people were making fun, and then I wrote right back, don't make fun of that guy. With that, if it wasn't for that guy, you guys, the Zonians would still be in Panama, So
a lot of people will tell you that was the catalyst that kicked off the I mean, from there it was a nonstop rumble that ended up with Torrijos Carter in '77. Then was
the trees. But definitely, Willie and I did some tremendous research for the last 2 weeks. We probably know way more than we should because I'll tell you what, this is a rabbit hole of a day, of a situation. Two very, very different strategies, results, event, you
narratives,
name it.
even two different narratives.
Completely left and right. I mean, opposite. That you have to question why is it so opposite?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that tonight a lot. Some of the people that were actually there are going to be on our show tonight discussing
Absolutely.
what they saw. So firsthand witness.
No, it
And
is.
then-
And you know what's interesting is you know, we're now well into the age of mobile phones and cameras, right? And so now there's not an event in the world hardly that doesn't get captured. Heck, even that whole Venezuela thing, there was people filming on their balconies. You could see helicopters in the middle of the night. So, you know, but you go back to 1964, that was hardly the case. And so there was a lot of misrepresentation. There was a lot of different, you know, again, different narratives of what actually happened, who caused what, and where it went from. And that's, you know, to Ricky's point, we have done a lot of reading. There's, you know, you have the tools now to do it that really make it,
AI's made it really
easy to get the information
easy-
you want and search for it, you know.
easy. It's just that easy that we get it in front of us, but we still have to read it, and AI will
definitely.
help. Will help you.
Yeah, I'll tell you
break
guys.
it
Listen,
down.
if you guys want to learn to research any topic, learn a program called Notebook LM. It's an AI program that is just an incredible research tool. It will even take whatever sources you put into it, and it'll create a 2-person podcast, and they will discuss whatever it is that you threw up there.
A debate. To have a debate.
And then it allows you to actually click a button, join, and ask questions and interact with it to do even more research. It's just a really fascinating tool to research. I highly recommend
Fascinating
it.
history, guys. So let's jump into it, Willie.
Yeah, let's say hello to some folks that
Yeah.
are joined us here. Jim and Diane, good evening to you guys as well. Yes, you're talking about the coupon. There's a website. I'm going to find the address and put it on there. But the Panamanian Tourism Board, whatever they're the equivalent to what used to be EPOT, I guess. They have a program that if you're staying in Panama 3 days or more, that you get this coupon, and it's got, what did we say, Ricky? It's like $500.
$500 worth of the goodies.
You know, and a lot of it's going to be stuff where if you're staying at any one of those hotels, you're probably going to have access to some of that there, and certainly some of that shopping in Albrook at the big mall there.
Yeah,
But,
shopping, eating, hotel.
yeah, that's
even Uber was on that list.
I wouldn't doubt it. Panama is very dynamic now with the way they do things, and of course, tourism is a big deal for Panama. They've got an airline that serves every point in Latin America, but everybody seems to fly into Panama and change planes, and so this is the reason they come up with it. They said, hey, hold on, man, don't stop in here and change planes. Stop in here, stay and visit, and check out Panama. They got great shopping, great restaurants, great places to visit. So now they've incentivized you by saying, hey, here's $500. And so you guys are all going to be going there for at least 3 days. So you definitely qualify for it. So it doesn't cost you anything. Take advantage of it for sure. But we'll try and find out where it is. And if between now and next week, we'll definitely get that information to you.
And the other piece of information from last year is if your American passport says you were born in Panama or the Canal Zone, you can go into the Panamanian lines, which will get you through
For immigration.
aduana. We'll get you through aduana way faster.
Yes, absolutely.
Than the guests.
Yeah. So
Than the
cool.
visitors
Check out
line.
Bud chiming in here. He did a post. So for Jim Jenkins, that'd be interesting. I have to look that up and see what he put out there because you know, and obviously when he's quoted as saying that, you're talking back 60 years ago, and so.
Oh, I feel
There may
bad
be
for
some-
that guy, man.
I mean, I know of a certain person that's in our studio here named Ricky Royo that was in 1977 or 78 was yelling all kinds of stuff while his uncle was president. So, you know, there's a different tone when you're.
There was nothing political about that. That was
No,
just
no,
me being a wise ass.
But you were, you know, it's that youthful exuberance, I guess. We'll
Yeah,
call it,
no,
right?
I got a lot of trouble for that. My dad
I'm
did too,
sure.
man.
I'm sure that's my point. You know, so I'm wondering if Jim Jenkins kind of the same way, where all of a sudden he steps back and goes, "Hey, listen, man, I was 17 years old, man."
I lucked out because I was with Mrs. Dupree, Frank Dupree's wife.
Right.
They just happened to interview both of them at the same time, you know. So
that's hilarious.
that's kind of silly. But
Funny.
yeah, I got myself in a lot of trouble for.
Yeah. So for you guys that don't know, I mean, you should. But Ricky Royo, his uncle was obviously President Aristides Royo, that was president of Panama during the Canal treaty times. You know, in fact, he's one of the chief negotiators of that treaty.
Yes,
So
chief negotiator of the Canal treaties.
But,
Yes.
but yeah, that I'll have to look that up. But thanks for bringing that up. Bud Tristano, guys, great. This is the guy that's brought us a slide better than anybody has in our Canal Zone,
Goofy
and he brought us
Falls.
some great video and shots that they kind of look very similar to stuff that Mac from our Howler Monkey videos have.
Oh yeah,
similar
Howard,
locations there. Howard Air
So that's
Force
where
Base.
he was based out
Yeah,
of.
Bud was stationed. He was one of those Zonians
Hey,
that
Mark.
actually enjoyed being in the zone, and on his time off, he explored the zone, and fortunately was somebody that was very handy with a camera and loved to film and photograph. So, if you don't know, look him up on both YouTube and Facebook. He's got some great Canal Zone shots and videos and stuff. And then Mark Cicero's got some great Canal Zone music. If you haven't heard it, came out with a really, really cool Christmas song, and he's got a just an absolute classic. He's got a lot of good tunes. Look him up, Mark Cicero CZ. Make sure you put that in there because there is another Mark Cicero that's attempting to do music, but he's not the
Not our Mark Cicero.
So, yeah, definitely. But check him out there. Hello from Dover, Delaware. Hey, right on, Dover, Delaware. Cool place there. That's where isn't that near? Is Andrews Air Force Base there? Or is that? I guess that's in actual Washington, but.
Andrews is here in California.
Chris would know. No, Andrews
Hi,
over
Chris.
by in the U.S. Chris would know. He flew in the Air Force. Chris flew F-15s in the Air Force. Stockton, right on. Look at you. You're out there out west. But Andrews Air Force Base
look
and
at
Dover,
you.
Delaware. I know in Dover where they had all the C-5s. I think that was a big base for C-5s. if I'm not mistaken.
Stockton, you're close to me. Let's hang out.
Oh, there you go. There you go. How long you in town there, Chris? Let him know.
Hey, Leaf, long time, brother. Good to
Take care
see
of
you.
alcohol, those whole big- you see, there you go. But you stocked up, of course, like a good Zonian, man. You prepare like a good Zonian, aka Boy Scout, one or the other. You definitely. All
No
right.
sound.
Uh-oh. Anybody else? Let me know if there's any sound here. Hands up. Roll Tigers. Roll Tide. Speaking of roll, there's a football game on tonight. Y'all might be watching that. You should watch this instead. All you want to watch is the end of the college football games anyway. That game last night, Ole Miss and Miami, was an incredible game, man. But yeah, if you can't hear me, please let me know. I definitely want to.
We want to be able to handle that because we got a great show tonight, guys.
Yeah, we definitely do. Okay, so Bud said that both flags were in his classroom. And he had nothing against the Panama flag. He just wanted to raise the U.S. flag, not knowing what was going to happen. So yeah, and we're going to get into that whole story. So for those of you folks that don't know the story, you know that there was a riot there, and there was a flag incident, whatever. But we're going to tell you what that story was and what led up to it, right? Where we were prior to that, because this isn't something that just spontaneously happened on the 9th of January. People said, hey, let's go do some flag stuff. There was a buildup that came to this point here, and this is where it really came to a head, man, and
changed history.
Yes, indeed it did. It changed history. Taking on the show tonight, Ducks versus Hooches is taking over. Yep. Okay. Right on. Yeah. C5. I know they had a lot of big C5s in that base there in Dover. So, and again, like I've told everybody else, thank you for serving. Yeah, you can hear it. Cool. Right on YouTube. You can. Maybe on one of the other ones you can't. So, hopefully, we can get you onto a channel where you can hear it, Frank. But thank you for chiming in. Let us know here. Yeah. Dodd said, look, it's fine. Okay. Right on. Yeah. Right. There you go. Operator error. So. But cool. Well, anyway, we're gonna get into that here in just a moment. Though,
yeah, it's gonna be a good show, guys.
Let's talk a little bit about what's actually going on before that. Some Canal Zone stuff there, and then get some announcements and stuff, and then we'll kick this stuff off.
SCN Television presents K Pasa. And now here's this evening's host, Army Sergeant Bob Foster.
Good evening and welcome to K Pasa. We've got two guests tonight. First Sergeant First Class Jim Webb. Sergeant Webb with the 227th Military Police Detachment. He's the...
All right, so I think we're good with volume. With sound, I mean. Uh-oh, Willie, we can't hear you, Willie. I can't hear you.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. There we go. I had myself muted there. That was on me there. That was I had to cough. I didn't want to cough in everybody's ear there. So got you. All right. Anyway, so K Pasa, right? Remember K Pasa back in the day on SCN was that 5-minute show on Wednesdays. It was just kind of things that were going on in the zone. K Pasa obviously is what that meant. So that's what we do here as well. And there's just a couple of things going on. It is the new year, so but there's always a Zonian activity going on somewhere in the world and somewhere in the U.S.
Right. We have the Panama Canal Society's doing things, and the Canal Zone Reunion's doing things.
Yeah. The Canal Zone Reunion is definitely the one that to pay attention, especially right now. They're only a couple of days away, really. I mean, it's what 21st it starts, give or take. So, and there's some stuff going on. Maybe people getting in there a little bit earlier or whatnot, but. On the screen, scrolling on the bottom, there is the website. Make sure you check them out, canalzonereunion.com. Add it on your phones as well if you're traveling down there, so you can stay tuned.
Easy to navigate too, guys. I did it myself this week.
There you go. So definitely check them out and see what's going on. But Ricky, what do they got going on right now with that?
Well, one of the first things they got going on is on the 17th is the annual Christmas tree burn, a Canal Zone tradition that till today is still being performed in Panama. So out in Cardenas, January 17th, make sure you get out there for the tree burn. We got another couple of nice little things for all you Zonians that believe that Napoli's is actually God's food. They are celebrating their 64th birthday today.
How about that, huh?
64 years of Canal Zone being that's the number one restaurant for the Pacific Siders, at least. So happy birthday, Napoli's, for that. Varsity football happening right now in Panama because they play now varsity football during the dry season, not the rainy season like we did.
Correct.
They played in the dry season, so that's happening. But let's get back to the Canal Zone Reunion, guys. Lots going on. As you know, it kicks off Wednesday, the 22nd. All right, so get on the website, check out what's going on Wednesday. One thing I can tell you is that Wednesday night at Magoo's, you want to be there to check out the band Los Vegas with our Canal Zone girl, Lisa Palm.
Lisa Palm, yes.
Yes, at the Magoo's in Cardenas. So don't forget that. That's the kickoff big party. Then, I'll talk about Thursday. I mean, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all a ton of stuff to do. But tonight, let's just quickly go through Thursday, guys. So Thursday morning, there's the partial transit northbound. I think you start off in Balboa and you end up in Gamboa. Or do you go all the way to Cristobal? That's a good one.
No, to Gamboa. It turns around in
Gamboa. I think you turn around in Gamboa. Correct. So that one still got tickets available. And there's also, if you guys still want to see what's going on in Howard, there's going to be a tour out there. Now, you're going to go check out the whole bays, the airport, the whole works. But also included with that tour, guys, is you're going to go check out a brewery called La Clandestina. And they're going to have a tasting there for 2 hours, drink all the beer you can handle.
Nice.
Also Thursday, Summit Gardens. If you want to hang out with Myra and David Seitz, which I would definitely love to hang out with those two, Summit Gardens. All right? That's all morning events Thursday. Now, also happening in the morning, if you're more into the arts, they're going to do a reprosa. If you remember the reprosa jewelry, all the gold little frogs, and the wakas and the whatnot. They're going to have a workshop on how they do that on Thursday morning, as well as the Owl Sprague art tour. So if you're into the arts, guys, Thursday morning, 2 great events. Now, Thursday afternoon, after you're done doing all that, got your breakfast, and I would recommend Nico's, by the way, for breakfast.
Sure.
The Bio Museum has an event there at noon. Okay. Again, Frank Gehry is the architect for that. World renowned. He just passed recently, but world renowned architect.
He's no Art Vandelay, but he's pretty damn good.
Oh my God, this guy is the tops. And the reason why Panama, well, for many reasons, but one of the reasons why Panama got one of his works is because he was married to a Panamanian, to an Arias.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. So Thursday noon, Bio Museum. All right. Okay. So when you're done with all that and you go to the causeway and you go to the, do your thing at night, another major Canal Zone event happening amongst many. But this is the one I want to bring up because the guy hosting it is also part of our show, HB, Henry Toohey. What's his last name?
Toohey, yep.
Toohey, I got it right, Henry. All right, at the Theater Guild. You guys all remember that in Ancon, right there, right before
behind the train station.
Behind the train station. There's going to be a tour and like a history tour of the building because it's been there forever. Yeah. And an improv. Now, a little fact about that. Jennifer Aniston, the real pretty girl.
Right.
Her father directed there and worked
Wow.
there and acted there. Her father. So
Really? That's funny.
go check out the guild. There's going to be a good improv and a history of a tour, a history of the building and everybody
Yeah.
who's performed there. It's going to be phenomenal, guys. And then of course Thursday nights when the Chiva Parranderas also start,
Oh,
and
there
they're
you
going to be
go.
taking off from the Marriott, and I think that's a good deal. Also Thursday night, the Bay Cruise is happening. So I'm not
Right.
sure if they still have tickets or not, Willie. You might have to go into the site to check out if they still have tickets, but that is by far, I would say, the highlight to do that Bay Cruise. Now that's a Zonian activity since the 40s that we've talked about when we do our spillways. That
Yeah.
they still, we all love Art Vandelay. It took me a while to catch on to who Art Vandelay was. And then that night, following all this tremendous Thursday at the Canal Zone reunion, guys, remember, it's not everybody in one spot. There's all these different events you participate. But at night, you come together to the Midnight Chicken Coop at the Marriott in Albrook. And none other than James Slater will be playing with his band. So you don't want to miss those two major
If
music
you guys
events.
remember, Ricky, when he was on our show, James, obviously he's extremely talented. We saw
Extremely.
his sizzle reel, which had, the who's who of country music sing his songs, right? So this guy's just a phenomenal songwriter, but he's also very entertaining. The entire time he was on the show with us, he was on the piano looking up at us and chiming out and busting out tunes and everything. It just, this is what you're in for, is a very engaging, entertaining night. It's not just going to be, okay, great, some other musician out there. This guy's,
And he's talented too.
He's talented. He's a lot of fun. He's a fun, cool Zonian. He really engages his audience, man.
And he embraces his Zonian background.
Yes, he does.
He does.
Indeed,
And he does it in his music and the way he acts, the way he interacts with people. He is Zonian 100 through,
Yeah,
man.
we're working on that video for him for his song Guayabera. It's a great, great tune, man. You got to check it out, man. So, we're gonna have a
guys,
video.
that's Thursday's events. Friday,
We haven't
Saturday,
even
go on
yet.
the web and find out there's a whole ton more.
It is. Listen, there's a lot of events there, guys. It really is an experience type reunion. It's not so much a gathering reunion. So be prepared. It's hydrate a lot. If you haven't been to Panama in a long time, it's a different climate than what you're
dry
used to. Even though
season
it's
now.
dry season, but it's still more humid than most of you are probably used to. The whole walking shoes and all that. But just
wear a hat.
Website. Yes,
I always say
100%
wear a hat. I learned my lesson there.
Wear a hat, and because even we've all been there, in the best of the dry season, you still get a rain shower as well. So be ready for all of that. But tune into the website. Stay in touch with those guys there for any announcements. Have a blast. I think you guys are going to have a good time. Take pictures, shoot videos, send them our way. We'll be more than happy to post them. Hopefully somebody down there will be able to jump on their phone live and we can throw them on for a little bit and give us a little
Up to date.
Yes, and up to the minute report on the reunion and what's going on. So, but enjoy it, guys. Once that's over, we switch gears, of course, and start looking at what the Pan Canal Society is doing. Although they're just doing stuff all year long, but once we pass the Canal Zone reunion in Orlando, we start to focus more on the Canal Zone reunion in Panama, right, and everything they got going on. So now we switch gears, and there's a couple of things going on to keep in mind here. Coming up in February, at the end of February on the Space Coast, there's a couple of different happenings, events. They're kind of connected, coordinated. They're just in different locations, all close by though. But on the 27th is a happy hour at the Hilton Cocoa Beach. And that's a good time. A lot of Zonians are going to be there as part of the Pan Canal Society's events. Then on the 28th, the next day, is a potluck at the VFW Cape Canaveral. Cape Canaveral and Cocoa Beach are right next to each other. It's like Balboa, Los Rios kind of thing. But those are happening at the end of February. Make sure you go onto the website, pancanalsociety.com, to find out what they have going on there, or .org, I mean. Also, don't forget, guys, it's time to renew your membership. If you're not on that 5-year plan, make sure you renew your membership now. It's less than $1 a week, guys, to be a member of the Pan Canal Society for a year. It's $50. So take advantage of that, especially right now while you can. Last thing is the Cardenas tree burn has been announced, the 17th of January. So it's in about a week from tomorrow is when they're having it. Okay, it'll be in Cardenas. That's a big Zonian event. That's part of what we touched on Mark Cicero's song about the canals on Christmas and the Isthmus was that tree burn. Because remember, this is the time of the year now where back in our day when it was the zone, people were running around with their gangs trying to steal the trees, trying to protect your trees, hide your trees, all that good stuff. So this was that great way to close out the holidays in the canal zone, which was absolutely awesome. But keep those dates in mind, guys. And if you need more information, go to pancanalsociety.org and you can check all that stuff out there. And again, don't forget to get your membership done. It's less than $1 a week, guys. That's as cheap as you're going to get for an amazing organization, but definitely keep that in mind. Let's say hello to a couple other people here, and then we're going to give some love to our sponsor, Howler Monkey Sauce. And then we're going to start talking about the January 9th that some say led to the beginning of the end of the canal zone. So, it's a big historical moment, not our favorite moment to talk about, but it's one that involved a lot of Zonians in a lot of different ways. So we're going to check that out here in just a moment. But before we do that, let's say hello to our sponsor, Howler Monkey Sauce. These guys are fantastic. It's a Canal Zone hot sauce company. They're in Jacksonville, Florida, but they're two Zonians, Tommy Ellis and Conan Herring. Great hot sauces they have. You see the four of them on the bar there. They've got the red one. That's the hot one. They got the original one. Actually, the next one is the Amarillo, which is the yellow one. That's a great one. I love that one. The original one has the black top on it, and then the green one, the Verde one, it's a more mild one, but that's one's great for things like fish tacos, and that kind of more on your seafood type if you like your heat there. But they're great hot sauces. They're all natural and all that. But anyhow, they're looking for a spokesperson. They want somebody to help push their product. They're already in some grocery stores here in the States. They're on Amazon. But we've agreed to help them out to find that spokesperson. And so we've got a couple different gentlemen. Bud Tristano, who just chimed in here just a moment ago, he's was from Howard Air Force Base, worked on the flight line there. So he's familiar with a lot of the grounds for this one Howler Monkey. We found that he may be the next spokesperson. Let's check him out.
We're still looking for our Howler Monkey hot sauce spokesperson. Just got an email from Panama.
You've got mail.
Hey, I'm Matt, and I grew up behind Howard Air Force Base in Panama. I can talk about hot sauce. On pizza, uy, que rico. So I just miro la camera and say, I'm Mac. I grew up in these trees next to Howard Air Force Base. Hey, are we really going to Napoli? And let me tell you, the flavors of ají chombo, garlic, and onions, they each hit you one at a time, and it's so delicious. Howler Monkey Original brings the true taste ají chombo of Panama to your pizza game.
Do you know a Howler Monkey who can describe the sweet heat of our original with authentic ají chombo peppers, or the fresh punch of Verde where habanero warmth meets crisp bell pepper? How about the bold tang of Amarillo, yellow Scotch bonnets blended with mustard seeds? And of course, our hot, the same great flavor as original, fired up with red habaneros for that fire. Our sauces are all natural, no preservatives, gluten-free, pure flavor and pure fire. Are you the next Howler Monkey spokesperson?
See if that's that's Mac. That's Mac up back there behind the Howard Air Force Base, so he's pretty cool. We've met Gamboa, of course, who was our first one for the Amarillo, right? Because he likes that. When he puts that on chicken, he said he likes. He's got that Bijan accent.
Yeah, and we got to see Napoli's inside on their birthday.
Happy birthday to Napoli's. I'm looking forward to anybody. By the way, Leaf, since you're down there, you're kind of our unofficial correspondent down there. Go to Naps and take pictures. Because didn't they do a big remodeling on it? I'd like to see what it is they changed on it, because it was closed for like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, and send us a pizza, won't you?
Yeah. While you're at it, you can freeze those and bring them up. They don't bother you. If it's
cooked, at the reunion, every once in a while, people show up with those, because I've had slices at the reunion.
But and then somebody asked me, and they just texted me, say, hey, You can talk about your tattoos. I did get a tattoo the other day. It was kind of cool. It has a lot of Canal Zone meanings to it. That's why the reason I got it, because it's very much a Panama based tattoo that I here I'll show you what it was on it, because Laura Cossack had mentioned, she goes, "Oh, you're gonna tell us what all that stuff means," and she brought a good point up, because there's an airplane on there, and she said she would have thought I would put up a Braniff or Pan Am airplane on there, but that's actually Copa Airlines. That's an airline that's near and dear to me, and my mom, of course. My mom worked there for many years, and I did as well. But you have your Balboa sign up there. That's my home. I am a Balboa boy through and through. Those dates are all my kids' birthdays. Down there, of course, my dad, Canal Zone Police, so I put his patch on there. There's me in Rams football. It's funny, somebody from the Kiwanis page, because I was promoting the upcoming show, and so somebody was just, I guess they were following me or whatever, and they mentioned, they go, "Hey, how come you don't put any Kiwani stuff on there?" Like, well, that play right there, I was running the ball, against Kiwanis, and that when you look at the full picture, it is, I think it was a Shrine Bowl, in fact. My wife on there, my Manchester United, and then Benninghoff established 12/24/65. That's the anniversary of my mom and dad getting married. So that's when the
Happy
Benninghoff
anniversary, yeah,
was started. So this is a style called Trash Polka that I did there, and so it's kind of cool, man. I've always wanted to have something that had a lot of Canal Zone stuff on it. So
yep. Well, you hit a home run there, my friend.
Yeah, it was cool. It was painful. It was a long.
Now 11/11. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So 11/11 is, my mom always, all the time, just chatting, at random or whatever. She's like, "Hey, I did it again. I look at the clock and it's 11/11." And it was just something that she would catch her when she looked at the clock. It always said 11/11.
Yeah,
so.
I alwa's got 4:20.
Right. Well, that's another one. It's a great time you're in tune with that one for sure. But so that's kind of my time. Whenever I see the clock, it's 11:11. I always say hi to my mom up in heaven. But then one time I've started reading something about it, and I'll send it to you one day. But look it up, guys. There's apparently 11/11. The time has a very important meaning to it. It was fascinating to read.
Yeah. Well, my sister, to me, she was born on November 11th, so that's what I saw.
Oh, look at you. Okay. So yeah, but that's what that one is. That's me saying hello to my mom at 11/11.
Right on.
So,
that's good.
But let's say hello to a couple other people here, and then we're going to start talking about this Canal Zone.
Yeah, a lot of people are buying this stuff. So right on, man. We need to let them know that their ads
really
are
awesome.
working.
Yes, letting me know which one you like the best. Like I said, I love that Amarillo one. Make sure you shake it, guys, because there's not any preservatives in this stuff. It's all natural, so you got to shake it. But there's a lot of goodness in there. It just starts to settle to the bottom, man. But it is an absolutely fantastic hot sauce. I definitely think you'll enjoy it. I live in Panama, Florida. I was walking on now. Yes, absolutely. And there's a show on YouTube called Hot Ones. Really cool show where this guy he stands in front of he sits at a table across from a celebrity and they have 10 bottles of hot sauce, and they get progressively hotter. They start from the very mild one, and the last one is just like some nuclear ridiculous stuff. But it's a really cool show. They just have some really cool banter talking about themselves and different things in current events or whatever, but each time they're trying the different hot sauce. Some people can go all the way to the last one, other people they just can't make it that far. But Howler Monkey was on there for 2 years, so they got a lot of great exposure off of that. And then now, like I said, they're in grocery stores and around there. But it's a Zonian, man, so give them some love and get yourself some. If you can't find it at your grocery store, just go on to Amazon. Howler Monkey sauce, you can't miss them. They have their own store on there, and they're absolutely fantastic.
And they do make a great stocking stuffer, as Lori
yes, indeed.
Let us know. Hey,
and
Steve
you know what?
Tuckerman.
You can send some love for Valentine's Day. If somebody that likes some hot sauce, the
that would be a good sign. Hot sauce on Valentine's.
Absolutely. So Steve was with us a couple of weeks ago. Him and Jesus Romero talking about all those narco boats and everything in Venezuela. And
what timing, Mr. Benioff? What timing? So, yes.
Canal Zone.
They must have heard our show and go, you know what? I think it's a good time. The podcast boys are talking about this. Let's go hit those guys up.
Yes, they are. And then,
they did.
Andrew's going to bring. There you go. Look at you. He's going to bring you a. All right, there you go.
Oh, right on. Yes, Andrew will be here in a couple of weeks. Andrew, I've got our agenda set up already. I'll send it to you.
Right on.
I'm going to have Andrew here for a couple of days.
Yeah. Good stuff.
look
Yeah,
at some
Andrew's
good
working on a
stuff.
really cool museum project down in Panama. That's
Yeah, we're going to look at some of the models that a model maker is going to be proposing for the museum. They did all of the George Lucas models, so we're going to go look at that, which is just down the street from me. At, and what they call the Presidio.
For those of you guys that don't know, Andrew Eftimitis is also, he's a captain on the Canal. He's a Canal pilot, and he's also a regular on our show and chimes in every several months to talk about what's going on with the Canal. At one point, he was actually the port captain, so he's really in touch with what goes on. We did a really cool episode one time. You can always find our episodes on our channel, SCN Canal Zone, on YouTube. And look for the live shows, okay? Don't look on the recorded show because there's only like one or two there. All our shows are live streamed, so they're going to be on that live section there. But we did a show one time, guys, where we walked through bringing a ship through the Gatun locks from the anchorage out in the Caribbean there, through the locks, and then into the lake there. And it was really cool because Andrew, of course, was a big part of it. We had some connection issues with David Cohen. He's a tugboat captain, but he was going to give us his version of what you do, on the tugboat end of things. Jim Duffus, who worked on the locks in Gatun, was with us as well, giving his part of what they did when the ship was coming through. And then you see, and I do it every time I get ready for this, and that last name just unbelievable what a mental block it is. But one of our friends that works in marine traffic control was giving us his version of what goes through, because it was quite an operation for all these different teams involved to get a ship through just one set of locks. And then, of course, it's got to go through the lake and does it again in Pedro Miguel, then again in Miraflores, and out it goes. So it was really cool to see that. But Andrew does give us some great reports on the Canal. And also, if you're down in Panama in the next few weeks for the reunion or any other time, he's got a great bed and breakfast right in the heart of the zone there called Cascadas Lodge. Check it out there. And if you're so inclined to go out to Contador or take a Canal cruise, he's got the great Sea Panama, which is his boat charter operation. Big boats,
3 or 4 boats, and I know he's got a big part with the Canal Zone reunion. I think
yes, he does.
Boats are being
they're doing those transits, those partial transits,
and the bay cruise too.
Correct,
and the Toboga. There's a Toboga cruise as well on Sunday.
Yes, and Andrew does, for what it's worth. If you're down there visiting any other time, he does weekend regular scheduled cruises out to Contadora. So it's a great way to get out there, and remember they have those little resorts. I've just spent a great weekend out there.
Busy, man.
Yeah, good for him there. So they're cool. Thanks, Eric. They're like I said, they all have a special meaning to them. It was kind of painful, but it was fun. Leaf, please send me some pictures. I do want to see what the changes were, because they were closed for several weeks, and we've been there many times, but some of us haven't been there in a long time. So. Yes, 11 is it really is. Absolutely, Sherry. And look it up, because there's a special meaning to it, in general about that time, 11/11. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, what's up, Gabe? Yeah, I'm telling you, I love that one, man. Here's the beauty of these hot sauces, guys. They're not overpowering. You get a great flavor. You get that punch that you want, because hot sauce is about getting a kick, right? It's not kid ourselves. But you want to still taste your food, and so this gives you that opportunity. You get that nice kick, but you get some great flavor, and you got 4 different ones to choose from. So like Bud Tristano just said, man, order the 4-pack, man. You can't go wrong, man. You'll find out which one you like, man. But they're all very, very good. Rapscallions in the house, HB2, and nice going right on HB. HB is going to be joining us for that great. He's doing that Theater Guild show, but he's going to join us to do something with the Theater Guild here on our show as well in the next couple of months as well. HB, for you guys that don't know, is his dad was a Canal Zone police officer. He's a Zonian through and through, and he's another one that's multi-generation Zonian. He's got family goes way back as well. And HB's had a lot of great success in front of the camera, both on the small screen and big screen. Doing things as well as on stage. Look him up. He's been on the Hallmark Channel on some really cool mini series, I guess you call them, or a mystery movie. What is it? Mystery Island. He's got part 1 and part 2.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool stuff. And then he did 1903, right, where he did played the role of Shaler in that great,
yes.
I mean, just a renowned play, and just great stuff there. So check him out when you get a chance.
Check him out, and he'll be on our show soon. Willie, you said this month, next month? When does he come back?
Next month.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we've got our this month, even though it's our 5-week month, right? We got a couple of them this year. You have actually 5 Fridays in it. This is one of them. So we'll have we'll go over it later, our dictionary and stuff, and some other stuff. We got a great guest coming on in 2 weeks, which you guys are gonna be. It's gonna be an awesome guest. I'm really, really looking forward to this guy. A really, really cool, well-known Zonian. So, man,
dictionary coming next week.
Yes, exactly. Very appropriate to have that, and get some cool fun there, and we're gonna do that along with something else where we're gonna start bringing on board, with that documentary that been working on with excavating the canal. So should be some good stuff there. Yeah, Hot Ones is a cool show, guys. There's a lot of cool people on that. It's not as cool as this show, I guarantee you that, but it is a really cool show. A lot of cool guests on there, and watch the one with Shaquille O'Neal. It's hilarious because I'll give you kind of a bit of a spoiler alert. He can't go all the way to the top with those hot sauces. There's some people that'll take all of them like a champ, and he wasn't one of them, but he's pretty funny. You definitely gotta check him out. We got a 4-pack on as well. Yeah, listen, they're awesome, man. Every one of those sauces is good. They each have their role, right? They each has something different you can have there.
Mr. Akira.
Yeah, look at Akira from he's actually in Japan. He watches our show. He chimed in when we were doing a Panama Railroad history show several months ago with Nodier Garcia, who's a Panama Railroad aficionado and historian down in Panama. He joined us one time. And the thing about Akiro's story and the reason he's following it, he's an avid historian as well. And back when Japan was first establishing diplomatic relations with America, and Akira, I hope I get this right. If not, feel free to correct me. But they, this was of course before the Panama Canal, and as you know, to get from Japan or from Asia to Washington, you'd have to cross the Pacific and then, of course, either go all the way around South America, which not only was it long, but it was very treacherous, or the next option was cross over in Panama and use the Isthmus of Panama. So they stayed in a town which unfortunately ended up becoming a victim of the canal. It was one of those that went right in the path of the canal, but he had a great story to contribute to that, and ever since then, he's chimed in to say hello from Japan. And yes, it is Saturday morning up down there because of the time change. So, good morning to you, and thanks again for chiming in. Mary and I will be at CZR 21. Yeah, listen, guys, absolutely. And if you have his book, bring it down. He'll sign it for you. Steve's the co-author of that book, Fantasy of Flight, Queen of Air, which is a great book about drug smuggling and just some incredible intrigue that's baffling that they could do the things that these people were doing. But anyhow, let's go to 1964.
And one of the reasons why they went and got Maduro because of all that.
Thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you. Somebody just bought us a beer. Thank you. So
right on. That was you clapping for me coming up with that.
I gotta fix that and see why it doesn't.
Thank you so much, guys, for buying us a beer.
Much appreciated. That QR code there. If you feel so inclined, scan that QR code and buy us a beer. It always helps us out with everything we're doing here. But so, January 9th, 1964. Known as the Flag Riots, also as Ricky pointed out here, known as Dia de los Mártires, okay, Martyrs Day.
Mr. Jeff Jenkins Day. No, just kidding.
Jim Jenkins.
Just kidding. I got to give that guy love, man. I feel bad for you, man.
So we'll give you a little bit of background what happened. We all know that the story basically is that there was riots that ensued for quite a few days. There were several deaths, unfortunately, and ultimately this led to changes in the relationship between Panama and the United States. In fact, at one point, Panama broke relations with the United States, which is quite bizarre because we're right in the middle of their country.
Panama breaks relations, declares war on the United States. Right. I mean, Panama. We're like that one little animal. What's it called? The honey badger.
Yeah, no kidding, man. No kidding. But ultimately, a lot of people will say, and it makes sense to follow that narrative, that this continued down the road, that 1977 was only 13 years later, right? That's not a long time in the span of things, for things to keep going the way they were. And at that point, 77 was, of course, when they signed off on that treaty. So what happened here, right? Well, there was a issue with a point of contention between Panama and the United States. This had been brewing for a while there. I mean, it started way back in 1955. There was already conversations there. Remember, the original Panama train station, the original Cologne train station, were at the time in areas that were part of the Canal Zone. And when they rewrote that treaty in 1955, some of that territory was given back, and that's when the train station over by Ancon, on the Panama side became our station, and the same over in Cristobal, right? So some of those territories were given, but that was now the process that was starting where Panama now had been around for what, 30, 40 years, right? Since 1903, 50 years, I guess. And so, they're now a country that considers themselves a sovereign nation, and they want a lot more of their sovereignty. And the flag became that symbol of sovereignty, right? In and of itself. And it wasn't so much the disrespecting of one flag or another. It was simply that Panama said, listen, United States, you have this canal. And yes, the treaty says in perpetuity. Of course, we've learned that perpetuity really meant 100 years. But either way, the verbiage of it said, you're leasing this from us. This is not your country. And therefore, we have the right to put our flag up there right next to yours. And that's all we're asking for. We're not asking for different flags. Well, it kind of went back and forth. And so finally, Eisenhower took a unilateral action and made a decision to take down certain flags, right, in certain areas, right? And then later on, it was solidified by President Chiatti, who was the president at the time in Panama, and John F. Kennedy, who was president of the United States, what it basically said was, when you're flying the United States flag, you have to fly the Panamanian flag next to it. Okay. So that's where we ended up in that situation where, okay, this is what you have to do. Did it sit well with Zonians? We're a special kind of people, guys. Right?
No, but Willie, also you're doing a good job. I don't want to interrupt, but one of the things that was also mentioned at Balboa High School, and I could be wrong, was they had decided to take down the American flag and only place it in the classrooms.
Correct.
And that alone is what got the Balboa High School students riled up, from
because
earlier.
Again, it was exactly the governor in the Canal Zone said, "Listen, this is how we're going to do this. We're not going to put the Panama flag up in all these public places next to the American
17.
flag."
He chose 17 areas.
So he's
17
to say,
spots.
in all these other places, we're just going to take it down. And the schools including that, and so they just fly inside their classroom. Yes, remember, we used to do the Pledge of Allegiance in elementary school in the classroom, right? We would stand up there and do it. So they were doing that still, but there's a big difference between elementary school. At 5 years old, I could give a rat's ass about flags, other than know that that's time to stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance, right?
Right.
17 years old, I'm in the Canal Zone. I'm a Zonian. I might be second, third generation Zonian. I've got my swag, I guess, right? My swagger. So what happened was that decision ended up becoming a issue where certain people and in his own words, Jim Jenkins said, I got this started. I started going around pushing for a petition we're going to go out and raise the American flag like we used to do. Remember where at BHS, for those of us that went there later on in the late 70s, early 80s, etc., where the Balboa head was out in front there, that entrance, that used to be a flagpole.
Correct.
And that's where the actual flag was. And that's why, and I'll show you some pictures here in just a moment when we get our folks on here. But that's where it all started, where they went down and said, to hell with that, we're putting up the American flag. And now, Ricky, you finish the story there, because what happened from there then?
Well, okay, so, all right, so now we know this is happening. The flag is a big issue. But again, it had been going on since actually 59, Willie, is when they decided that it has to be up, and then they just delayed it. But what are the listen, there was two strategies going on before maybe I shouldn't go there yet. So what happened after that? Let's go back to, so 200 students had a good idea, their intentions were honorable. They said, hey, listen, you guys since 59 said we can do this, we want our flag up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. We don't want to replace yours, we just want to put them both up.
We want to put them both up. So they didn't think it was going to be a major issue to go to Balboa. I mean, why did they choose Balboa High School? Willie and I have different ideas of why. I mean, we both have the same idea why, but other people might have different ideas why. But they chose Balboa High School to go do this, where they could have chosen the admin building, the hospital. There's a bunch of other buildings they could have chosen, but they chose Balboa High School. Yep. So what happened was that the Canal Zone cops let them come in and said, listen, maybe 200. And another thing was Panama wanted to raise their flags at the Balboa High School pole, which our flag, I mean, the American flag was brought down.
Right.
But I also read, Willie, that specific day, January 9th, the American flag was up.
Well, that's because the American students went and put it up.
The American students went and put it up. So the Panamanians they came in and they wanted to bring down the American flag and put up the Panamanian flag and sing the national anthem and then get all the pictures and all that stuff. But of course, there was a little bit of fighting going back and forth between the students and them. Guys, and I've spoken to people that were there, and the fighting was more like Cristobal High School against Balboa High School.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like, we hate you, you know, no, it was more like, you know, rah, Balboa High School.
This is a great time now to bring our guests on, because this is absolutely going to set the tone for what Ricky's saying here, because there's a lot of controversy as to what actually happened. In fact, you know, part of the catalyst of this was the desecration of the Panamanian flag, and there's controversy as to who actually tore that flag up, whether it was U.S. or Panamanian. So let's bring our guests on, because we're going to get some insight of somebody that was there, and then of course, if you guys, you know, in the audience that were there as well, please feel free to chime in with your version of what you heard or saw. But anyhow, so here joining us now is going to be George Cotton. I still always know him as Coach Cotton. That was my Balboa Rams coach, always will be my Balboa Rams coach, but also a Canal Zone police officer. Okay. Also Ron Benninghoff. I know him as Dad. Okay. Also Canal Zone police officer. But here's what's interesting. Both of these folks had an involvement with this January 9th incident, but neither of them was a Canal Zone police officer yet, right? Coach Cotton, George Cotton, was at BHS. He was going to join the police force and ended up joining a little bit later. He'll tell us here shortly. And my dad, Ron Benninghoff, was in the Air Force at the time. So, you know, in fact, my dad tells stories of looking at this like we were talking about a little bit this morning, where this is like no different than if you were on base in Germany and there was some incidents going outside of the front gate there at your air base, right? To him, it was just another foreign country that some Americans were in that you might have to protect. Whereas, you know, Coach Cotton, George Cotton, looks at it like, hey, this is a Canal Zone, man. We are Zonians. We are second, third generation Zonians. And obviously later on, my dad would have the same view as he, you know, lived there and became a cop. But anyway, guys, welcome. Glad to have you guys. Happy Friday. Happy New Year. Start with you, George. Your version of what happened on that January 9th. What was going on there?
Well, the students came down past the fire station, and as they crossed the street, one of the students on the on the right-hand side, as you're looking at him, misstepped the curb. And when he did, he jerked on the flag, and that's when the flag ripped. I saw it.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm here to tell you, they ripped that flag.
Yes, that's the
then
same
they
story
tried
I've
to
heard.
put the blame on the students.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
And
at this point, they were now crossing that street. If you guys recall, what he's talking about is the fire station was right across the street. It was almost catty corner to the admin building across that street as well. And so they had to cross that street to get to the flagpole at BHS. So now, at what point did they get there and you guys or the Zonians meet up and how did that all take place and who was in there to mediate it?
Well, the chief of police, Gaddis Wall, tried his best to calm our students down. And we were not going to have any of that.
Right.
So the Panamanian students wanted to raise their flag, take the U.S. flag down, raise their flag, sing their national anthem, and go back to Panama.
Right.
Well, I beg to differ with them. I wasn't going to let it happen.
Okay.
So as they started to sing the Panama National Anthem, I started singing "God Bless America."
Right on.
And the whole student body that was there joined in, and we flat drowned them out.
Sure.
I'm not proud of that, but at least I was letting my feelings be known.
Well, and for you guys that don't know, Coach Cotton was born in the Canal Zone. He is a true born and bred Zonian from back in the day. He has a long history there as well. So this is something near and dear to his heart.
And my dad was also born in the Canal Zone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this is
I
generation.
got a lot of, yeah. Anyhow, when the students left, they went up the stairs they went up Balboa Heights Road.
Right.
And they turned over every trash can between the fire station and the limits at J Street. You know, in the big green 55-gallon drums they threw trash all over the place.
Sure.
And when they got down to J Street, there was probably 5,000 or 6,000 people waiting
for them. Correct.
And as soon as they went across the border, all hell broke loose.
All hell broke loose. Yes.
Yeah, and so now, real quick. Sorry to interrupt you, but on the screen here, guys, just to give perspective of where this is now, and then we can really start looking at it. So this area you can see on that little arrow, whatever, points north, right? That arrow ends up at that's back then was like the air terminal in this older map, but that was like, I guess, the library. What else was it? Get your driver's license there and all that kind of stuff. But if you go down that road, that's Gaylord Highway. That little turn in there is where you would turn to go to Corundu. Okay, so this whole empty space here, this is actually Ancon Hill, all right? And this is going around it. This is, of course, most of this here is Panama City. But those are the main roads there because that Gaylord ends up connecting through Roosevelt and whatnot here to 4th of July, okay? The entrance on this side is the entrance going in towards Gavilan, which would be on your left-hand side there. Down here is Chorrillo, as you can see on the map there. And if you kept going left to the left side of the map there, you'd cross the Thatcher Ferry Bridge eventually and cross the canal. So this is the area where on the Pacific side, the majority of what we're talking about took place. And in fact, Coach Cotton, as you're talking about, they went up through Balboa Heights. So I imagine they walked along those areas by, I guess, what was the, when did Sacred Heart Church out in that area up there at one point?
They probably went where Gorgas is. Yeah, Fishbow's up. So they went Gorgas.
And then you go down.
Right.
You go down through the hospital grounds.
Oh, okay. So did they march through the hospital grounds then?
No, they went
in
down
front of the governor's house.
Yeah, they went in front of the governor's house.
Okay.
What was that? Heights? No.
Balboa Heights.
Yeah.
Yeah, behind the admin.
Yeah,
So
behind
they
the admin.
came up Gorgas.
Past the governor's house. And down through the hospital grounds. They didn't go onto the hospital grounds. They stayed on the road.
But they said on that main road that went right through Gorgas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And then right down to J Street. Straight down, boom, J Street.
Which would be going back to their
Grand Morrison and the Ancon Inn.
Now, I imagine that's probably the route they took to come into the zone to begin with, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Wow. And so, and of course, they got sent out. And then history says that now a much bigger mob was going to come back in. Is that correct? And is that how it started to play out?
Oh yeah. There were 5,000 or 6,000 people waiting for them. And
now,
as soon as they went back into Panama, well, see, that's where the National Institute was.
Correct.
Or is.
Right next to Napoli's.
Right across the street from the Napoli.
Yep, that's right.
And that was the beginning of the riots.
Okay. And so now, we're getting into these riots, which lasted for several days. And now, Ron, Dad, kind of strange calling him Ron, but you were in the Air Force at the time, and you were part of the photography or the media unit for the U.S. Air Force when you were stationed down there. So what was your role, and how did that kind of get started, and when did you guys get notified, hey, we got some action to go film here?
Yeah, we opened up what was called Detachment 9, which was going to be photo that we could take care of South America and Central America. And the 1365th Photo Squadron, which was located in Orlando, they had the production studios there, and they would handle anything east of the Mississippi, and then west of the Mississippi was another squadron in California. They would handle that. So that's how we covered all around. And usually when the coverage would be both still photography and motion picture photography. My specialty was motion picture, and I was on the AFNR unit. That's called the Air Force News Review. Whenever you went to a theater, they always had news reviews between pictures.
Right.
And that's what I shot. So we opened up the detachment, and there was, I think, 9 of us came down, 2 motion picture and 2 still, and then some leadership and also some office work.
Sure, personnel, more
people
personnel.
that would run the detachment.
And you were stationed in Albrook, correct?
Albrook Air Force Base, yeah.
Okay. All right. So now the riots kick off, and we got cars burning, we got people shooting and stuff. And where do you end up? Where do you end up first?
Well, the first thing that we found out of what was happening is that the Canal Zone police had, I think, within the first day, and by the second, they needed assistance. So they went to the governor, and then the governor, being military, also declared a martial law, and that put the military in charge. And I guess the Canal Zone police sort of acted to support them.
Sure.
Some function. And I to tell you the truth, I don't know what day we were out there out of that 4 days, probably the second day.
Right.
And I was out there with my equipment and was photographing what was happening from the grounds of the Tivoli Hotel.
Okay.
And right at the Tivoli was from Shaler Triangle, you could go up, and there was an opening in the rock wall.
Right.
That surrounded the Shaler Triangle. And that would open up, and you could cross right there to the Canal Zone side, and there was an opening there, and there was a sidewalk that went in and went up into the Canal Zone. And so it was used a lot. So there was a lot of things happened around that particular area.
Yeah, and to show you guys, Shaler Triangle, if you can kind of see it here, you're going down 4th of July. When you get to right about where Ricky is, right to the left of him there, in that area there, this is where Shaler Triangle is. This is where if you guys recall, used to go down this road down 4th of July, you'd pass the intersection where Grand Morrison was, the Ancon Inn and all that, and you'd make a really, really sharp right turn. It was almost a 180 turn, and you go down a road there. That park that was on the right-hand side, there was a big open park there. That was the area where Shaler Triangle was. The bus depot and everything was there. So if you cross the street on the other side back into the zone, that's about the area where the Tivoli Hotel is. And so that's where you first got started doing what it is you were doing, and correct?
Yeah, I was located between the Tivoli and the building on the other side of the sidewalk coming into the Canal Zone from Panama. Was the Marinol sisters had a building there, a couple stories. And so I located near the Tivoli and started capturing and photographing what was going on along 4th of July. And at that time, there was barbed wire was set up, or concertina as they call it, that had been put in place. And there was some shooting going on, and I went over into the Marinol sisters building and into the end of it, the Tivoli Hotel end of it. And you could look right down onto 4th of July, and you could look at the entrance into the canal zone, and also the steps and that came up through that rock wall. And
yeah, I remember that rock wall. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and it's sort of interesting. The guy there that was, I guess you would say, I don't believe we had a formality of snipers at the time. I guess we would, military people, in this case it was the Army, they would find out who was the best shot.
Well, it's something interesting that you're talking about the Army and the military and their involvement. I posted about this since early in the week. Obviously, we've been talking about having this show, and it's going to be a great show to learn about everything that happened. And so a lot of people have been commenting and throwing their stories in there, their experiences. And one guy in particular put a posting in that it was interesting. He said, and I'm paraphrasing now, but basically what he said was his dad was one of the U.S. servicemen that was lost there, and he was buried in Arlington Cemetery. But the tone of it was one of anger, because these guys were initially deployed with no ammunition, and they were really frustrated by that. And so I wonder what you guys saw, and whether that was the case for everybody or maybe just one particular unit. But I found that interesting that maybe that was a way to make sure that it didn't escalate.
Well, my recollection of that part of it is probably, I think I was the second day down there, and I went. Being in photography, you have to move around, and you got to get where the action is and photograph the action. So you're not fixed in one position and you stay there.
Right.
So you move around, and I think by the third day, they were sort of, how would you say it, getting resources, ammunition.
Sure.
Gas,
so maybe initially it was true.
Pardon?
I said maybe initially it was true that they weren't armed, and then as they realized that, hey, these guys are shooting real bullets, we got to be able to shoot these guys back.
Well, I can remember walking, I'd go to this area, go to this area, and we know each other,
right?
All military. And so the guys would say, Ben, bring me back a case of 45 or a box of 45.
Right.
Something. And they had trucks parked in certain places, and so I go grab some, carry it up to them. Right. But I went into the Marino Sisters and into that kitchen, and the Army guy there it might have been his own, but it was a sporting rifle. It was a hunting rifle, but it wasn't a military rifle.
Okay, interesting.
And he was watching that opening in that rock wall. And that's where a guy had come out, and he'd fire a couple shots up towards the Tivoli. Tivoli got a lot of holes put in it.
Yes. I heard it was all, several hundred.
Shot up, yeah.
So this guy was good. He said, I'm talking to him, and he said, watch. He said, I'm figuring out his times when he appears and doesn't appear.
His rhythm.
To get ready.
Yeah.
And he got ready, and just before he was going to pop out of that hole, this guy fires into the rock wall right across the opening.
Right.
With a 30-06, pretty heavy round, which would chip stuff, and
sure.
The guy didn't come out. Hopefully it worked. He got
Sounds like it may have.
A face full of stone, and he put it off till later, I guess.
Yeah, he probably knew what he was facing now at that point. And then he realized they're shooting you back now, so now it's becoming a little more serious. Now, Coach Cotton, when this is going on now, after the high school on the 9th, you guys, well, let's go back to that real quick here. That night, you went back to class. Am I correct? Or the students did, not you guys, you obviously, but the students had to go back to class because somebody posted that they had to go back to class, and their teacher made him write an essay about why they went and raised the American flag. But what did you guys do once this ended, and obviously it continued to escalate, and then going into the weekend and stuff? What did that play out for you guys in the zone?
Well, I was working at the post office at the time, and I had just got off duty. So when it all boiled down to they went back to Panama, the crowd at the high school dispersed. I went home.
Okay, that was it. Time to go home.
Yeah, and classes were out.
Sure.
Nobody went back to class. Everybody went home.
Okay. I imagine so. It's probably hard to round everybody up and get them back in class anyway after something like that. And then now, do y'all recall what day of the week it was? What the 9th happened to fall on, by any chance?
I think it was a
Thursday. I don't.
I mean, I'm sure we could probably find it out. You guys got to look on a calendar somewhere. It
doesn't really matter. Because...
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But it sounds like it was a Thursday event.
What happened with the next day then and the next day? Because, as we've learned in a lot of places, if you schedule your riots to happen on a weekend, nobody shows up because they got better things to do on a weekend. It's Monday through Friday. They want to skip school or skip work, then they'll go to these damn riots. So, but all right. So the next day, then things are now escalating, right? We're getting the military is getting involved. We're declaring martial law. What's life like in the zone for you guys, George?
Well, when I got home, told my mom and my brothers and sisters, don't go out of the house. And I had a couple of guns that I loaded and put one by the front door, not by the front door, but where I had access to go out the front door.
Of course.
And I put one in the kitchen where I could go out the back door. And I made up my mind, if they come, I'm going to kill them.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Okay. And was that I guess the feeling amongst most Zonians that, hey, if this gets bad, we're going to have to take action.
Yep.
Interesting. Second Amendment.
The next day I went back to work and the riots were going full bore.
Okay.
I mean, they were burning down the Pan Am building. And
right.
Just raising hell.
Sure. And so what did that do to the zone?
Went on. I beg your pardon?
I said, what did that do to the zone? I mean, did the governor declare like emergency, everybody stay home or close, No,
it was life as usual. Everybody was very cautious.
Right. Just be mindful.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's it. And that again is kind of a testament to that Zonian spirit. Hey, we got a riot going. We got a Pan Am building burning, and it's not that far away. In all honesty, when you look at it, but hey, just be cool, man. Just be careful.
We'll see you at the Causeway.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see you at the Causeway. Okay.
I do remember that they couldn't leave that Pan Am building alone. They'd get done, and then another group would come in and try and break something, or tear something, or start a fire.
Apparently a lot of the businesses on that
thing for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
That poor building.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of American companies along that road,
sure.
And all of them got burnt down.
Well, and in the 60s, there's probably no bigger symbol of America than Pan Am.
Pan Am, right.
But
how about Grant Morrison? How did Grant Morrison hold up, or was Grant Morrison even around back in those days?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were around.
They probably got looted too, didn't they?
That's a landmark.
No, they put their shutters up and
they knew better. Well, I would imagine most of the businesses. You're right. You know what? It makes sense because most of the businesses around that instituto know that these guys are rebel rousers. So you're probably right. They'd gone through that drill many times with those guys.
Well, that's the year Napoli started. So there was a lot of American companies in that area.
Yeah. Well, think about it.
Restaurants.
America was across the street, literally.
Yeah.
So now let me ask you guys this, because this is one of the areas that becomes a point of contention, and we start looking at conspiracies as to what this is eventually going to lead to. But the Canal Zone police did what they could. Obviously, they had their limitations, and we've learned that, a lot of different changes to procedures and policies in the Canal Zone police came because of these riots. But during those riots, at that point, then the Canal Zone police says, hey, we got to get the military involved here. This is beyond what we can handle here. Okay. Now that happens, but there's a lot of controversy about happened or lack of what happened with the Guardia Nacional? What was going on there? Because it seems very apparent that they did nothing for the first 2 or 3 days and just kind of turned a blind eye.
For content, guys, the
exactly
Guardia
what they
Nacional. Yeah, one second. For content, guys, for the Guardia Nacional was nowhere to be seen for 4 days. Right. Nowhere to be seen. And they were known under the leadership of Bolivar Vallarino, who was the champion of order in Panama and the status quo. He was known to put down hard all demonstrations and et cetera like that, because his whole thing was to keep order. From 55 to 64 was when, to 68 is actually when he was leading. But from 55 to 64, there was a lot of order, and that's the way things were handled. So we know from the ICJ report that for 4 days, there was no guardias anywhere near that area.
Oh.
Yeah, what's your take on that, Coach?
Yeah, the National Guard were like roaches. When you turn the lights on, they all disappear.
They scampered.
Yeah, they were nowhere. Nowhere.
Yeah, and if we know, even from what we saw later on in the 70s and 80s, certainly in the 80s under Noriega, you know, those people didn't play, man. If you weren't in line, man, it was a beatdown.
Well, he shut it down. Once the Guardias did get in there, they shut it immediately down. So there was that 4-day period with Willie and I doing a lot of research to find out more about that. That's the rabbit hole that we're talking about. Because there was a lot going on between 64 and 68 when, you know, the Torrijos takeover of the government happened. Yeah. So those 4 years is what, for another show, Willie and I will let you know what's going on.
It's interesting because the time prior to that, if you look at history, you know, Fidel Castro just came into power in 59. So that was only 5 years before this. Okay. Correct. And when he came into power immediately because of the Cold War, this guy was now the golden child of the Soviet Union. And he could do no wrong. They just poured money and resources into this guy because he was now going to be the one to export communism into the Americas. You finally had a foothold there. And one of the biggest prizes, of course, is Panama and the Panama Canal.
Like it is today.
A lot of conversations there as to who was calling the shots for the Panama, you know, law enforcement to basically say, hey, stand down. This has to become really ugly before we step in, because there's a great opportunity, you know, for some optics here that might favor Panama and those that want Panama to take over the canal and all that sovereignty. So, you know, there's a big piece there. Was there any of that conversation in the zone involving, you know, talking about the communists and what they were doing with Panama? George?
Yeah, there was always talk, and there's still talk.
Yeah,
I'm in Panama right now, and the Chinese are here.
Yeah, right.
The Chinese run this country. This is just an example. All of the ajo.
Garlic.
Yeah.
That's for sale in Panama comes from China.
That's incredible.
Every bit of it from China. So China's got their foot in Panama, and they're here. It's a given.
Yeah, no, and that's something they wanted to do. I mean, you know, not China per se at that point, but the communists in general. You know, this was their opportunity, and so they pushed a lot of that. You know, there's certain prominent communist agitators, I guess you can call them, that were next to Chowdy at the presidential palace. You know, addressing the mob, and they weren't doing anything to tell the mob to stand down. That's for sure. You know, and I mean, it went so far as to, you know, Chowdy breaking relations with Panama. Now, let me ask you that's an interesting thing. You know, you're in a country now that's now sitting. You're in a U.S. territory sitting in the middle of a country, a sovereign country, who has now broken relations with the United States. Did that change anything for you guys, especially, George, for you with the post office and all that? I mean, it was brief, but.
There was 4 months there that the United States and Panama didn't have relations. And after sometime in March or April, people started going into Panama to do their shopping and nightlife and stuff like that. But many bars on Automobile Row,
Yeah.
and the one coming out Frangipani Street,
Yeah.
many of the bars refuse to serve Americans.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, I went into a bar. I forget the name of it, but there were 4 or 5 of us. We went in, ordered beer, and the bartender said, "We don't serve Yankees or dogs."
Wow. Probably El Rancho.
And I said, "You better call the cops because we're not leaving until we get our beer."
Heck yeah.
And I had about 40 beers before I got to the bar.
Well, that would.
So the Guardia came in. The Guardia came in and asked what the problem was, and we said we just wanted to have a beer. And the bartender told us that they don't serve Yankees or dogs. And I told them we're not leaving until we get a beer. And the Guardia told the bartender, "Give them their beer and they'll get out of here."
There you go.
So the
Simple.
bartender served us our beer and we left.
Just that easy. Avoid another international incident just like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. But that was the climate there. And I think that carried over because after that, things weren't the same. Earlier tonight, Ricky and I were kind of speculating about a couple of things because, you got to remember in 1964, Panama still had a democracy, right? They still had an elected president. It wasn't until 68 that Torrijos came in and that coup that kicked in that dictatorship for the next 30 odd years. But, it was definitely a different country, different setup. And where this was leading to, it's interesting because, there was a lot of people outside of Panama and outside of the United States that had a keen eye on what was going on. And they were kind of pushing some narratives here. And Dad, you tell that story about watching that journalist, up to some shenanigans there. Tell us that story, because that's really interesting how, especially again in today's world, and not to get into politics, but your media, you think are telling you the truth all the time, and turns out half the time they're not. But give me that story, or give us that story.
About 90% of the time they're not.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
It was the same as the same building, the Marinol sisters, and the kitchen at the end where that American sniper was keeping them from shooting at us. But I was up there and I could look down, particularly around the entrance into the Canal Zone, the sidewalk between the Marinol sisters building and the Tivoli. A crowd got out there, and there was concertina wire around that area. They had parted it where they could get in through the gate area, but they would move concertina wire around.
Sure.
Anyway, there was a German photographer, and I could tell because motion picture cameramen usually use a shoulder pod to steady their camera.
Right.
And it gives a nice bar where you can hang a flag. That'll identify you as press.
Okay.
Part of the country. So here's this German flag hanging there. They get him over there, and he gets talking to a bunch of them, and they pick a guy up and very gingerly put him down into the barbed wire so he didn't get stuck. And meanwhile, when they get it all set up the way they wanted, he backs off and he's photographing this motion picture. He's cranking off his stuff, different angles and what have you. Well, what came to pass probably after 4 days, maybe, I went over to Howard and went into the flight line and into operations. And at that time, we were trying to get the Americans, I say we, military, were trying to get the Americans out of Panama.
Right.
And there's no place to keep them with that, so they just fly them into the States.
Sure.
And all went through Howard. I'm over there photographing the dependents that they had bring in,
Right.
with their families and getting on a plane and getting
Sure,
out.
capturing everything.
And here I look, and here's this German again. I said, bullshit. I got in touch with this provost marshal, and I said, this is not right. Told him what I had seen and photographed. That film went up to the state, and he took care of that. 2 people come in and got a hold of him. Out he went.
Yeah, he was trying to portray the Americans in a bad light.
Oh yeah,
he was staging scenes that weren't real, and that was part of what was going on here.
And that brings back the fact that you don't have any National Guard on what they're going to do in Panama.
Right.
As far as the Canal Zone side of it, by then the military was spaced along the boundary, and
sure.
Panama knew where they were.
Right. Well, and that's the narrative Panama wanted.
We weren't just, it wasn't, there was shooting going on. There wasn't a lot of gunfire going on, but there was occasionally a guy come out, a couple pop shots, and then he'd go hide again. And so it was, there was, I don't know. It was very mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the narrative that it was spontaneous, the more I read into this, the more I call bullshit. That whole event was set up from everything about it was set up. In my opinion, at least, from utilizing the 200 students to go do an honorable thing to having thousands of people waiting for them on the other side of the limits when they came back, all the radio guys talking about and pumping it up before it even happened. So spontaneous. No.
Yeah. Then you get one of these leaders of that student group ends up on a balcony with the president of the country in the palace. How does he get that access there and get in there to have that conversation? It wasn't
spontaneous. And you know what, Willie, guys, and everybody that's watching this, today the president of Panama said it is starting this year. Panamanian schools are going to start teaching U.S.-Panama relations, international relations, which, believe it or not, they don't teach that in Panama at all. So nobody really knows this story. Like I said, if you start researching this story, you're going to be blown away. It's a rabbit hole of how things were going. Truly, this could be just my opinion, but from all the stuff that we've read in the spillway, because we've been doing this show for 2 years. 55 to 64 were pretty calm years. There wasn't a lot going on neither in Panama or the Canal Zone other than, these conversations about sovereignty.
Yeah, the only other thing was that change, where they gave back some of those areas, the original train stations had to move and stuff. But even that was fairly peaceful.
Yeah,
right?
and the worst that was going on, Willie, was what you and I have read was the words they were using were just like the worst thing that could ever be.
Right.
That was the worst thing that was happening is the words they were using.
Yeah.
Now, from our studies, which is what we understand, Panama and the Canal Zone had 2 strategies. Completely different.
Oh, certainly.
The U.S. strategy was to long game, spread it out as long as they could. They knew they were going to give it back. They just didn't want to do it so fast. So the U.S. game plan was to stretch it out. And unfortunately, they used the word mealiness. What was it, Willie? Mealiness. We're going to give Panama little things at a time, like put up the flag, put a flag, etc. So that was the U.S. side. Panama side was all or nothing. You guys get the hell out of here, and that's it. Though there was no flexibility on either side.
Sure. No, absolutely. And it did, obviously, as we know, it had, deep repercussions and a lot of fundamental changes to this relationship. So now, Coach Cotton, you joined the Canal Zone Police Force in April of '64, so it was only a couple months after that. Did these riots, play a role in that or influence you to do this? Or
yeah, they had a big influence. But I got to tell you, I was a freshman in high school, and George Martin, who was a captain, came in and gave a speech on law enforcement, civil duties, things like that. And right then I decided I'm going to be a Canal Zone policeman.
Nice. Right on.
And it took me a while to get there, but in April I turned 21 and I joined the police force.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my father got in too because of the January 9th. Before January 9th, there were no Panamanian police officers in the Canal Zone. And after that, they decided, listen, we need Panamanians to protect on the limits of between Panama and the Canal Zone.
And to be able to engage the Panamanians.
Yeah, we wanted Panamanian police there. And that's how my father got in. And my father brought all his buddies over. Adolfo Tinker, Delgado, Villalobos. These are all my dad's buddies. And he brought them over from his neighborhood into the Canal Zone to make them Canal Zone cops. And that's how my dad actually got in. So
well, that's
January
interesting. Because that's what I was going to ask, and you segued it perfectly, was what did this trigger that you guys know of? And obviously, George, you joined just a few months after. So were they referencing the riots in some of your training? Because obviously it's something now that's new and fresh in their minds?
Oh, yeah. We had riot training. What was it, Ron? About once a month we'd go out to the police lodge and throw gas and beat up on that dummy.
Same ones we used at Balboa Rams?
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I would imagine it did. It brought major changes there, and something we learned from you guys in a previous episode that, the Canal Zone police had jurisdiction over the entire Canal Zone, including military bases. But when certain situations like this one occur where it's now something that's beyond the Canal Zone police's ability to handle, that martial law is declared, and therefore now the military takes over. What did that do? And I don't know if you guys would know and how to answer this, but what did that do to the Canal Zone police? I mean, do they now suddenly start following orders from a general, or do we know how that even works?
No, we went back to law enforcement in the Canal Zone, and the military took over the boundary. The military. We didn't take any orders from any generals.
Right.
We took orders from the chief of police.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It was funny. My dad was telling me a story about some arrest, and he's talking to a general. He addresses him as Mister instead of General, and the general, where he normally would turn around and be like, you don't address me that way. He realized in this situation, okay, yeah, that's Canal Zone police, and I got to listen to him. So there was definitely that separation of powers, I guess, and the respect and all that. So now, what do you think? Obviously, we know the result of this was that the relationship changed to the point that eventually we got the canal given back and everything. As far as the folks in the zone, because again, we talk about this guy Jim Jenkins, right? And he's the one that proclaims himself in interviews that he says, I'm the one that started it. I got the students at BHS all worked up and raised a flag and everything. Was there a sense of irritation, with the students after this all happened, or was it all pretty much support in the zone?
It was all pretty much supported.
Okay. I can imagine that.
There was always
Zonians stick together. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Makes sense.
There was always good relations between the Canal Zone police and the military in the Canal Zone. Worked together well, and it was always good relations.
Well, and it seems like even on the flip side of that, even though we see here during these riots that the Panamanian police didn't participate, didn't help out, they basically were standing down. But outside of that, from what you guys have told me, Dad, certainly you've told me this plenty of times, that you guys had a great relationship with the Panamanian, authorities, law enforcement for the most part.
Yeah, it's the
Noriega
problems and create issues are few and far between. The normal unit of Panamanian policemen or Canal Zone policemen, they're all out there doing the same thing. They're protecting their people.
Sure.
Preventing crime. And so.
Yeah, I guess a common goal, and that just that common bond
Yeah.
You guys are all risking your lives at the same time, and work together. I always laugh about those stories where you guys would meet these guys in the middle of the night, and at some crossover by 4th of July or something, and swap prisoners, which is a complete violation of all extradition laws. But who cares? Who's going to say anything, right? And that's the way things got handled. You didn't.
Yeah.
It's it is an interesting story how that all came to be, and then of course later on we see that Torrijos came to power, and again, Ricky and I were talking earlier that it's interesting that the United States was very, very cognizant of any military overthrows and whatnot in Central America and the Caribbean. And that time of of history, there was a lot of that going on, but they wanted to protect that canal. And so when Torrijos took over, it seems like they didn't bat an eye either. I guess they kind of figured, hey, as long as he's on our side, we're okay with it, and made sure that keeps the canal here. But obviously we found out Torrijos had other plans. But anyhow, listen, guys, this has been really interesting. I'm glad we had this conversation. The other thing I wanted to kind of touch base on, which I mentioned earlier, and this goes more to you, Dad, but during these riots and during all this time here, you're in Albrook, and from there you go to the buildings there and start filming all this. But your viewpoint is of a American serviceman working in another country. You weren't looking at it from the standpoint of a Canal Zone or a Zonian here. How did that differentiate from later on when you're a cop and you're a full-bred Zonian at that point? What was that kind of, I guess, transition like for you?
It wasn't hard.
Right.
But anyway, like I said, we come down and opened up a detachment. There was 9 of us, and we worked Central and South America. I've been through all of the countries in Central and South America many times. And but it's always from the point of view of military.
Right.
But I had 2 tours in the Air Force, and so the last tour occurred in Panama, and they actually asked me to re-up and stay in the photo industry, and they offered to send me back to finish my education, go to officer training, and but it would have put me over 10 years. I would have had about 11 years. And if that was the case, I would have had to stay. So I said, no, I'm going to get out.
Sure.
In the meantime, I got married on December the 24th, Christmas Eve, Yeah. And so I think I got out in May, March or something, one of the times. And I didn't miss a day's work. I discharged out on one day, and I raised my right hand and swore in the Canal Zone Police the next day.
Oh, awesome!
And went to work.
Yeah, so you
and
did
the the Zonian became another word in my vocabulary.
Right. Well, because now you're amongst them, right?
Yeah.
Now you're working with folks like George here, who's 3rd generation Canal Zone, and so it's a different look. You see them not as Americans in a foreign country. They're Zonians in the Canal Zone, which is where you live now, and you're part of that as well. So it is a great story. It's sad it had to come to an end. I'm certainly somebody that, one of my mottos in life is no regrets, or as some people say, no regrets. But it came to an end, and that ended up us moving out of Panama, going to the United States, which obviously I met my wife and got married and had kids, so I can't regret that. But when I see these stories, it's hard not to look at it and go, man, if these guys had left that damn flag alone, we'd still be in the zone,
They'd still be discussing what they're going to do about sovereignty, because that was the U.S. side, was to stretch it out, keep stretching it out.
Yep, just feed them a little bit, keep them happy. You keep that president happy, you keep them feeling comfortable and secure, especially again in volatile times, and the zone would have gone forever because the contract did say in perpetuity. But
reality is a very strong motivator. You know,
yes, it is.
Like George, you were talking about a few days after the January 9th thing, that they said, no, we're not going to feed Americans or dogs beer or whatever. That didn't last too long.
Yeah.
Why? The dollar.
The dollar, right? Yeah, money talks.
Spending there.
Money talks, right?
That's the way they're going to a movie. They're going to Monopoly. They're going to drinking. They're here. It's money.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that. I saw a video one time completely unrelated to this stuff, but there was somebody that was interviewed in Panama City, and this guy was obviously quite a bit older, and he spoke English, but they were asking him about, you know, the Canal Zone back in the day and stuff. And this guy is like, he goes, listen, most of us Panamanians, we loved it when the Americans were here, man. They had dollars, they spent their money in our stores, in our restaurants.
Oh.
And, you know, it was a great economy for a lot of people, you know, and they lost that.
Yeah.
You know?
And the jobs too, the high-paying jobs.
Yeah, certainly. Which is another thing that Ricky brings up a great point. You know, one of the things that you hear in these narratives, and as to why there was this supposed clash, was this resentment and this class warfare that the United States supposedly engaged in, where, you know, there was different pay rates and different pay scales. You know, I think that's a carryover from the canal construction days when you had the silver rolls and the gold rolls. But, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but like in the spillway, you'd always see jobs posted there, and they had the rate there, the pay rate, and that's what the pay rate was, regardless of who had the job. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, our employment system was so structured that you had different levels, and you achieved different, what you would call it, definitions or layers or whatever, and that's what you went by.
But in other words, if you got hired for that job, you got hired at that pay rate that was there, and it didn't matter if you were Panamanian, American, or Spanish, Dutch, or whatever.
Yeah,
you got hired
my father worked right when he got out of Panama PCC or Canal Zone College. He got a job in the Canal Zone right away, and he never ever mentioned any kind of issues with him at work because he was Panamanian. That was never mentioned. And like I said, from there he worked at the admin building in data entry, with Mr. MacArthur, Dickie MacArthur's dad. And then when January 9th happened and they brought in all, they allowed the Panamanians to be Canal Zone police, he took advantage of that. And again, no problem. He probably got in the same year as you, Coach Cotton, 64. Did you guys go to the academy together? Yeah, right on. So he was in
your
the
dad
first
was
class.
behind me.
Oh, he was 1 year behind you. Okay, so he came in 65 then. Or later 64.
Yeah.
But he did go to the academy. That I know.
I would imagine that probably after those riots, they probably increased the police budget because of the fact that they realized, hey, wait a minute, man, when there's a problem here, the Canal Zone police is not equipped to handle it right now.
Yeah,
and so they probably went into that hiring spurt. You know,
I don't know what the history of that is. But George, you might. Was the boundary car a two-man car, one American, one Panamanian, before that January 9th?
There was no boundary car.
Okay.
Right. And there was no Panamanian cops then either, Dad. Because remember that Ricky's saying
of Panamanian in the police force was after the riot.
Well, that's what Ricky was saying, because his dad was winning that first hiring class. And in fact, his dad was one of the first ones who brought quite a few of them in.
Yeah.
And so it was as a result of this, which makes sense. All of a sudden you're thinking, hey, we need somebody to talk to them. It's Panamanian. They can relate to them, you know? Yeah. But right on. Cool. Well, listen, guys, again, this was a really, really great show. A lot of good information here. It's interesting to get some different points of view and from you guys, especially as you guys both Zonians and both Canal Zone police, but yet your points of view tonight were nothing to do with the Canal Zone police because neither one of you was there at the time as a cop.
It wasn't hard to become a Zonian.
No, I can see that. It seems like it's a very cool place to have lived and grown up.
It's not only a place; it's a way of being. Being a Zonian is a way of being, a way of living, a way of loving, a way of eating, a way of doing everything.
Well, everything. I mean, look at what you guys were involved in our lives, right? You know, coaching football. Dad, you were a player agent. You know, you did the stuff with the Boy Scouts as well, and so it was a community in every sense of the word, not just physically, but the culture, the lifestyle. Everybody was friends with each other. You
took care of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It really
I mean, I think it's one of the only places on earth where our neighbors could whip, us kids if we were, getting in trouble. It was okay for anybody to whip us in the shade.
Right. First time you complain to your parents that so and so spanked you, you're like, yeah, don't do it again. Next time they'll hit you even harder.
Yeah,
You're like,
I don't even think we would complain about that.
But it was an interesting time, an interesting place, and I can see why the Americans and the Zonians were so protective of it, right? And so hindsight's 2020. I mean, I don't think anybody imagined that, hey, we raise this flag and stand our ground, that 7 years later we're signing a treaty that's taking the canal away from us.
13 years later.
That's what ended up happening. Yeah, 13 years, whatever the case was. But it was part of that Zonian mindset. Hey, we're Zonians. We're different. We do things this way. Even if the government says don't fly it, the heck with that. We're going to fly it, man. We're Zonians. That's what we do. So, but guys, thanks again for taking the time to join us. Really, really appreciate you guys doing that. And we still want to do another Canal Zone Police show. So we're definitely gonna work on that again. And Coach Cotton, we'll probably do for another Rams show, maybe in the summer again or something.
We got baseball coming up
as well. Yeah, we do have baseball coming up if you guys want to get involved in that. I know my dad even coached a baseball team, so we got some funny stories there as well about that one. So anyhow, guys, thanks again. Appreciate you guys taking the time to join us. Have a great rest of your evening and weekend, and Happy New Year to you guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year to you.
Yes,
Happy New Year, Rick.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you, Ron.
Good to see you, George.
Take care, guys.
Right on, guys. Gentlemen. Yeah, that was
great, man. That was a lot of fun, a lot of good information, a lot of different insight, right? A lot of it we set the record straight. For example, that whole flag tearing thing, that was front and center in the eventual escalation of this, was because now it's not only a refusal, but now you've desecrated our flag.
And you heard it from somebody who was there, not a reporter, not a writer, somebody who was there, who saw what happened. No, I've heard that. I've heard that narrative that flag, tore from other reasons other than students tearing it up in a dirty way.
Yes, no, absolutely. But it was what needed to happen from the Panamanian standpoint. This is what they needed in order to really, really assert themselves as saying, hey, do we really own our country when we can't walk into our own land and fly our flag, and these guys turn around and rip our flag up and they tell us to get the hell out of here? And that's the narrative worked. It served its purpose. I don't know who exactly was behind it. We probably will never know. But
we're gonna find out since you and I are into this one.
But it worked. It worked, unfortunately, to a charm for these guys because, like you said, 13 years later, they were signing a piece of paper saying, hey, time for Yankee to go home, man.
Yeah,
because
they were probably going to sign it, but maybe not in 13 years, 23, right. 35, etc.
Well, and like you've said, that the initial wants that in those initial treaty was basically, hey, we just want the canal and get rid of some of your stuff here, and that's it. We don't want all these ports and everything else going on there. It was
that's the truth. I was telling Willie in one of our family lunches, I was maybe 16, 17 at the time, and Aristides came in and said, and we were with my dad and everybody were talking about the treaties, and he said, we went in there, we had no intentions to take the railroad, the ports, a lot of the stuff because they just didn't have the money or the
want
labor.
to have to do it and run it.
So yeah, they truly. I mean, what Aristides said to us. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more to it, but it was mostly the police, the commissaries, and the courts that they really didn't.
Which is really where your sovereignty comes from.
Correct.
To have another company running your infrastructure is not a big deal, but
and
to have another country running your law enforcement, that's
right. And they wanted the Zonians to shop in Panama because more than anything, because some of my family members are also part of this. Remember, if you recall, a lot of Panamanians would get people to buy for them in the Canal Zone.
Yes.
And then Panama wouldn't get the tax and et cetera, et cetera. So that was why they wanted to get that out of there. But then Jimmy Carter said all or nothing. So looked at Panama inside and said, what? All right, well, we'll take it. And that's it. Yeah.
And that was it, man. That's what happened here. So, yeah. So Dodd is chiming. He checked. I was Googling like crazy. I know, man. That's hilarious. It is. And listen, Dodd, I'm telling you, check out Notebook LM. It is an amazing, amazing tool to do research. You just got to load it with the right sources of information. And oh my God, it's so cool.
Yeah, I figured it was a Thursday. I did. I said, it's got to be a Thursday. Thursday, Friday, the 2 first days, and then the weekend.
And then the weekend. Yeah, the weekend.
And then on Monday, all the Guads showed up to work.
They did. That's what it was, man. They didn't have those guys working weekends, man. They didn't have the staff. They were understaffed. That's the problem. That's what they said. They were understaffed. So
no, we have to be respectful. It is an important day, but history is history. Facts are facts. And we are not, we're not spinning here
all the time. Okay, let's not.
Yeah, we're not here to spin any.
And we're not here to give opinions. We're just here to throw out what's out there and just go back to the zone. That's one thing that Ricky and I said this year. We're gonna really make the effort to go back to the zone a lot, make it really a nostalgic show. And we've got some great guests. In fact, right before we went on the air, I got an email confirmation, not next week, but the week after, Ted Henter's going to join us. Great Zonians, got a great story, a very inspirational story, but looking forward to hearing that.
Yes.
We've got a lot of great shows coming up over the next few months. Of course, we have our regular, our Dave Dahlstrom comes in and does some great Canal Zone history. We have our dictionary show, which we'll do again next week. We're going to be bringing that new excavating the canal bit that's going to be kind of to support that documentary. But there's a lot of other cool stuff out there. There's a gentleman that's going to be joining us by the name of Lance Winkowski. He worked on the dredges, on those big dredges out there, scooping up all that debris from the canal runoff and stuff. So that's going to be a really cool show. Looking forward to that. Like Ricky mentioned earlier, HB2 is going to be joining us. Going over the theater guild and everything that's happened there. So really looking forward to that. Akito, thank you for joining us again. And it's a lot of fun. And we share that common passion for history. So we love to share your history and you're sharing ours as well. So it's a win-win for all of us. We appreciate you doing it as well. Thank you so much. But yeah, guys, next week it's Canal Zone Dictionary. Get ready, brush up on your Canal Zone knowledge if you think you know it. We're also again going to be doing that excavating the canal bit. It's going to be a lot of fun. That video is that document is starting to come through. It's starting to get built out. So a lot of fun there. Stay tuned throughout the year. We have a lot of really cool shows. There's a baseball show in the works there, a surfing show in the works there, a lot of other cool shows. So don't miss them, guys. But either way, listen, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you guys spending time with us here, going back into the Canal Zone every weekend. But anyhow, Ricky, get us out of here, man. Great
guys,
tonight, man.
Thanks. We had a great audience tonight. We appreciate all the comments and all the interaction with you guys. Again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you very much. We'll see you next week with some more great information on the Canal Zone. Aloha, everybody, and God bless you guys.
Saludos, everybody. Cheers.